What if you played a video game? A video game that people adore and love. A licensed game that truly takes advantage of its universe. To the point where it's compared figuratively to Batman Arkham Asylum.
It puts its license to use better than any game since last year's Batman Arkham Asylum.
Officer Bowles.
And then one day, a sequel comes out and blows everything out of the water. A game that perfects everything the previous one did. And could, in fact, possibly be the best Transformers thing ever. And then one morning, you wake up and you can't play them again.
If it's a fight you want, this ends now.
The Transformers Cybertron games are absolutely fantastic. Or at least, you know, most of them are. But they're also games that go completely under the radar. And yet receive the kind of gaming fate they do not deserve at all. So I'm gonna put some respect on these games' names. And I'm gonna hope to God that the new Transformers movie with the worst title ever helps boost it. Can we please stop naming things Franchise 1, please?
Have you ever played the hit game?
Transformers War for Cybertron is a very shocking game. On the one hand, it's a gritty reimagining of the Transformers G1 cartoon, similar to how Batman Arkham Asylum is a gritty reimagining of sorts of the animated series, exploring a time period in Transformers lore that was previously unexplored. That part, of course, being the war on Cybertron. While on the other hand, it is a third-person shooter inspired by Gears of War.
Shit. Fuck Gears of War, more like Tears of War.
You piece of shit, motherfucker!
I just lost my fucking
Talk to us.
Except it's not a cover shooter. The only game I can think of that's remotely like it is Warhammer 40k Space Marine. This is a weird game to exist, and yet at the same time, it's also fucking awesome, and way better than it has any actual right to be. So again, this game's about the war on Cybertron, and that's as deep as the actual story is. The game is very much light on story, and that's thankfully not a bad thing in this case, especially when the writing itself is shockingly really fun. The game has a very Saturday morning cartoon style of writing, something that's accentuated by the very goofy and hammy voice acting. The bad guys are all dickheads who bicker their way to victory.
There's no exhaust coming from that vent! We can blast through to make an entrance!
Aren't you concerned at all driving into the belly of a furnace?
Aren't you concerned that I might tire of your pointless chatter?
Shut up, bitch! Oh my god!
They will also boast and gloat their plans in the middle of a fight.
Another shield generator? These Autobots are getting on my nerves! Bring down those shields!
Meanwhile, the good guys sound like they're always giving a motivational speech every other minute.
Yeah! Take that, Decepticons!
This is far from over, Bumblebee. The skies might be clear, but our ground forces are in disarray.
Stop it! It's turning me on! Stop!
It's campy in all the ways it should be. And the story that is there is very simple but very interesting. You learn about things like how Starscream became a Decepticon, how Optimus and Bumblebee end up meeting, how Optimus gains a Prime status. You get all these little lore tidbits that are really fun to learn about. There's a massive reverence for Transformers and the franchise as a whole, but there's also a desire to build onto the universe. It's not just nostalgia bait, which in general gives War for Cybertron its own unique identity. Nowhere else is this seen though than in the actual world of Cybertron itself. The Graham fix, the presentation, Cybertron is all cold, metallic, and robotic in every crevice, every area. A lot of shit is always shifting around and moving, and this is most importantly happening on the characters you're playing as. Their body parts are always shifting around and moving when they're breathing, dude. It's like they have robotic lungs on the outside of their bodies. It's kind of freaky, actually. The game overall just has fantastic art direction. From the highways to the sewers to everything else, Cybertron is fully realized here. It really feels like a weird robotic alien planet. Although there is one massive problem, and that's how bleak and gray it is. It's a look best described as Unreal Engine 3. The game has a very Gears of War style desaturation, so a lot of shit kind of looks the same as a result, which really sucks because it ruins otherwise phenomenal art direction. These environments deserve to pop out a lot more than they do in this game. They do not deserve death by Gears of War. Speaking of Gears, that's essentially what the gameplay is. It's Gears of War, but instead of cover shooting, you turn into a car. And this makes the combat feel really unique. You can go from a gunfight to aerial combat back to a gunfight. You can drive away from enemies if things get too heated. If you run out of ammo, you can transform into a vehicle and use more of your weapons. And not only is it fun to play, but it feels good too. The controls are perfect. Everything feels great. You truly feel like a transformer. It's an overall great experience, or at least for the time it was. Because as a result of the game being 15 years old and the PC port being kinda shit, this game feels very stiff nowadays. It includes a lot of glitchy jank.
On my way, son! Door stuck! Door stuck!
The biggest thing holding this game back, though, is the fact it's designed around 3-player co-op. As a result, playing this game single player is kind of boring and really repetitive at times. Oftentimes, you'll find yourself fighting the same enemies over and over again, fighting bosses that were clearly made for co-op play in mind. You'll be going through wave-based enemy encounters, which are, again, designed for co-op in mind. And most importantly, you have an option of 3 playable characters who kind of just feel the same. Now, yes, regardless, this is still a really great game, solo or co-op, but the game is so obviously structurally geared towards a co-op experience, and that really holds the gameplay itself back a lot. Don't get me wrong, I still adore this game, but it does show its age. It's a game that I think is in desperate need of a proper full-on remake, one that polishes up this old-ass jalopy. But as it stands, even as its age, there's still a fantastic foundation here, and it's still a damn good time overall. Blasting Autobots and Decepticons, flying around, driving around, shooting as you're driving around, and all the lore tidbits still make this a very fun game, and no doubt an absolute fantastic foundation for some kind of sequel. But for a while, this was indeed the best Transformers game, until this happened. Now for my money, this one is the shit. Transformers Fall of Cybertron. This is the one. This is one of the top 5 best licensed games ever. It is so fucking good. Except, fun fact, the game wasn't aiming for that at all. No, rather, it was aiming for the top 5 hardest games of all time. Normally, I'd say the only thing harder than this is my dick when I see Ramona Flowers. But that's not true because Ramona Flowers can't turn into a robot dinosaur. There's an entire part where Optimus uses this giant turret, but turns out the giant turret is part of Metroplex, a giant city transformer. So Optimus Prime is all like,
I ask you. No, I order you. Help us in this dire time of need.
And the entire next chapter results in shit happening like this.
I get it.
But then Metroplex dies, but then he doesn't, and he smashes Megatron to bits. This then leads to Starscream taking over the Decepticons.
Megatron has perished, betrayed by his foolish pride. I, Starscream, am your leader now.
But then Megatron comes back, and it's all like, oh, and I can't forget the flying combat level where the music goes all like, a much more bombastic cinematic approach, and it's great. It just brings out that inner 7-year-old in me. It really heightens the fact that these are Cybertron's last war-torn days, so everything is chaotic and crazy and just blowing up all around you. The presentation is just overall phenomenal, and the graphics, oh my god! Oh my god! The lighting is beautiful. The character models are so high res.
Holy shit, I'm gonna come.
There is so much more color here. It really leans into those G1 roots, but it still has that grittiness from the original game. And all this results in a much more visually appealing game. This is an Xbox 360 game, by the way. How did they do this? Meanwhile, as for gameplay, that's also certainly improved here. For one thing, since again, this is a cinematic game now, there's no more co-op. This allows for a much more focused yet much more variety-filled game. Every single mission in this game feels unique and different, from the grappling level to the stealth level. You have 2 flying levels, but one is more combat focused and one is more stealth focused, there is so much more variety and really good pacing too. The game has way better control over its own pacing now. This game has so much to offer and it all feels great to experience. Top that off with the core gameplay getting plenty of its own tweaks. The shooting is refined, every character gets a dodge move now. You can swap which arm you're aiming from, which is so incredibly helpful. It allows for more interesting enemy variety and more interesting combat in general. There's even some well-placed power fantasy moments like the aforementioned Dinobot level or the part where you play as Bruticus. Or how about in that last level when they bring back Bruticus, only for Control to then switch over to Jazz and you have to fight Bruticus as a boss battle. This is overall easily one of the best designed campaigns I've ever played. It's a great mix of variety, spectacle, pacing, and refinement. In fact, my only complaint with this game is that it's actually too short. This game took me around 5 hours to beat, which yeah, is really damn short. Now personally, I prefer shorter games, but by that I mean like 8 to 12 or so, but 5 hours for a Transformers game is pretty shocking. The game could have really benefited from a few more levels, but with that being said though, what is here is fantastic. It is, at least in my opinion, the best Transformers game of all time, and there's still enough there to continue and improve on. I'm sure nothing could have possibly go wrong from this. Okay, so first off, some context. Both of these games were developed by High Moon Studios, and these guys were a really talented developer, actually. So these games acted as their kind of Insomniac or Rocksteady moment, their moment to make a truly amazing experience. But of course, there was just one problem. The games were published by Activision, who at the time owned the Transformers rights. And when Bobby's hungry for souls, he starts eating.
Fetch me their souls!
The first thing he did was split a High Moon into 2 teams. One team would finish Fall of Cybertron, which maybe explains the game's length a bit, and the other was given a 1.5 years to make a Dark of the Moon game. And if that wasn't bad enough, after Fall of Cybertron's release, Activision forced High Moon to make a Deadpool game and poured $100 million into it. Meanwhile, popping Transformers on top of some guy.
Who the fuck is Gigan?
Well, that's really shitty and weird, but let's be optimistic. Transformers Rise of the Darkspark is one big Fall of Cybertron mod, essentially. But you know what? Fall of Cybertron's already an incredible game. And also, furthermore, a game like a Batman Arkham Origins is a mod of Arkham City. That game is still the fucking awesome regardless. So, Rise of the Darkspark has to at least be okay, right? Transformers Rise of the Darkspark is one of the worst video games I have ever played. And I say that with zero exaggeration or irony.
There is nothing left inside me now. Nothing at all.
It is an absolutely vile, joyless experience. First of all, whose idea was it for you to die in like 2 fucking hits? You die way faster in this game, which is weird because in the other game, when you got a hit, you don't immediately die. This is called making your game fun and balanced and not dog shit. By the way, you gotta love the graphics in this game. So there are 2 types of levels, the Cybertron ones and the Michael Bay one. And the Cybertron ones already look really awful.
That's okay. You can keep it.
The game is an impressively sauceless and lazy Fall of Cybertron asset flip. You will often find these large empty rooms or hallways with nothing in them. On top of the fact that the environments just in general look completely barren. These levels got no sauce. They got no rizz.
The Metropolis has no vibes. It's got no rizz.
Oh, but if you think these are bad, you haven't seen the Earth levels. Did they really just push this bus into the ground? What the fuck is this billboard, dude? Holy hell. Hey, but you know what? I'm glad someone's 8-year-old son is finally learning Photoshop. Oh, but we can't forget the beautiful Sega Dreamcast era environment. I have no clue what this area is even meant to be. I'm gonna be real with you. These levels look like old Gary's mod maps. Like, what is this? GM Big City?
Lord Megatron, we must take over GM Construct.
By the way, this is also a very early cross-gen era PS4 game, and let it be known that this was also the case for Alien Isolation. Just let that sit with you for a moment. Also, yes, the level design is just as bad as how it looks. It's the most uncreative splattering of arenas and corridors. This is made worse because now every mission is just a shooting gallery. If you really hate variety that mixes up the gameplay, this game is perfect for you. You don't get the unique and fun variety you get in Fall of Cybertron. Cybertron. It's all just shoot the poorly programmed enemies. Even the one flying area with multiple objectives is just a bunch of shooting galleries again. Even the big giant power fantasy moments happen out of nowhere and feel unearned. It is the most boring power fantasy ever. Oh, by the way, I hope you really love the phrase,
Let's see what we got. 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 Let's see what we got.
I would really prefer if you would be quiet.
Furthermore, there's also the story, which is a confusing mess, but also who cares? It's a weird Cybertron Bayverse crossover, and it's just completely awful. It just boils down to one really messy MacGuffin chase. Also, gotta love the random loading of pauses that happen. It's like no one actually play tested this thing. By the way, there's loot boxes in this game. They're not microtransactions though, so that's good, but why? This game has just the whack-assiest design ever. Again, I genuinely consider this to be one of the worst games ever made. It does make me appreciate other video games though. Like, games require a lot more than just a copying and pasting mechanics over. No, they require structure, level design, all that jazz. Something that Rise of the Darkspark does not have at all. It goes far below than just being not as good as Fall of Cybertron. It's just straight up a barely finished, not fun game. And it sucks that eventually some of the best licensed games ever just resulted in this. A video game that is absolute torture to play through. Now, normally this is the part where I'd say go buy War and Fall of Cybertron, because those games are actually worth your time. Except one problem. You can't buy them anymore. And that's the bleakest part. I guess this is the ending segment. You see, due to expiring licenses, Activision delisted a bunch of licensed games. Of course, though, sadly, Transformers was one of the many victims of this. As a result, Activision delisted all their Transformers games. War for Cybertron, Fall of Cybertron, Rise of the Darkspark, and hey, might as well briefly mention it, Transformers Devastation. A Transformers character action game by the devs of Bayonetta. Just completely gone. You can't get it anymore. Now, you could just buy a physical copy, but with the way the retro gaming scalping market works, it's only a matter of time before these games jump up in price.
Is DK Oldies a scam? No.
And as for PC players or digital-only console owners, well, you're out of luck. Now, at some point, there was a PS4 and Xbox One version of Fall of Cybertron, but it was sadly digital-only and now completely lost to time. I also can't tell you how it is because I simply don't own it. Now, you used to be able to buy Steam keys on Amazon for these games. However, War and Fall of Cybertron have been delisted there too. However, as of making this video, they are selling Rise of the Darkspark for $50. Oh, phew, thank God, I was worried. And yeah, that's kind of the end. Two of the greatest licensed games ever made, phased out of existence.
All those moments will be lost, like tears in rain.
It's a kind of bleak, actually. Now, every once in a while, we get a reminder that, they happened at some point. Most importantly, they recently made some toys of the game again. Of course, because nothing says Studio Series Gamer Edition like a game you can't buy anymore. This all gets even more depressing when you realize that all the studios that made these games aren't really around anymore. Edge of Reality is now straight up defunct, which, yeah, sure, Rise of the Darkspark sucked ass, but this was a real studio made up of real people. They deserved a proper chance to make a great game. Meanwhile, though, High Moon Studios doesn't even make original games anymore. Nowadays, they're a Call of Duty support studio and haven't released their own original game in well over 10 years. If it wasn't apparent already, I miss War and Fall for Cybertron. They were fun, they were interesting, they were intriguing. These balance the fun of Transformers with the war-torn grit in a way the movies were too afraid to do. It's a Transformers work that actively invites you into the world of Cybertron while providing an incredibly engaging gameplay experience. And they were great games for an early teenager like myself. And then one day, out of nowhere, it just all nosedives and ends for reasons purely involving corporate greed. This is, of course, just one of many types of these casualties in the gaming industry. And more than likely, things will only get worse before they finally get better. But I guess as of right now, the only takeaway is cherish what you currently have. Sometimes, or a lot of times, times, you don't know how good things are until they're gone. There really aren't a lot of things you get to care about in this world. So the few times you get that moment, you better embrace it, and embrace it hard, because you have no idea when it might be too late to do so. But it's also worth remembering the future is still unwritten. Sometimes our greatest hope is uncertainty, and maybe fighting for these games to come back might solve world of hunger. I think that one day, if we keep fighting, there could be a chance.
Fuck you in the lane you came with. Me and you ain't on the same shit. You ain't in my lane, bitch. Nah, throw that shit in fifth. Rollie on my wrist. Ay, baby, you a star. I'm my only wish. I'm counting blue hundreds. I'm too money. Ay, and my little bitch, she too lovely. Yeah, hanging up and calling me right back. Ay, baby, why you calling me like that? Yeah, getting high with the seat laid back. Baby, gon' relax, yeah. Hey, they don't know the half, yeah. No matter what happened, I got your back. Baby, that's the facts, yeah. That's the facts, yeah. We can fight, but the feeling's gone. I try to find the words, but they never come. I can still see you on the lawn. Hey, laying outside in the summer sun. Yeah, we can fight, but the feeling's gone. I try to find the words, but they never come. I can still see you on the lawn, hey, laying outside in the summer sun. Hey, I'm with a dark-skinned girl on a Sunday, that's that Black Sabbath. She put them ones all down on a Hyundai, and she had to have it. Baby, that's the facts, yeah, that's the facts, yeah.
If you wish to play that lock, you must log into my Steam interface.
And why, pray tell, might I need your Steam account?
There are no records of an invite for deadlock on your Steam interface.
What? That's preposterous! How dare those fools at Valve deny me Starscreen access?
I am more than willing to offer temporary access to my Steam interface.
Now, there's a lot of people that say that they hate this game and prefer Fall of Cybertron and War for Cybertron. Well, I'm going to explain why I think that Rise of the Darkspark is better than the previous two.
That pussy better stank, otherwise I don't want it. Popped a perk 30, got straight to fucking. That pussy dulce, smoking fentanyl, lace cereal milk. I see God. This shit ain't nothing to me, man. That pussy got me screaming, crying, pissing, shitting, shooting ropes. Yeah, we getting that Pirate Bay alien shish kebab cordyceps money. I hope them aliens are real so that I have more things to fuck. Smoking the Qui-Gon Jinn Vietnamese Phillips head runs. She sucked me like a cordless Dyson V8. I'm in the K-hole. Licking balloon knot. When I got the meat cannon, I be shooting straight rope. This shit ain't nothing to me, man. Chanel optics got me seeing shit. I need fentanyl slime. I just popped a whole garbanzo bean. Fuck you mean. I smoke real Emirati, rapscallion ghost nuggets. Y'all can't fuck with me. I'm him. I've been him. I will continue to be him. Yellow rubies glistening like this. Gulping sea monkeys by the gallon, my tummy feel crazy. That coochie yummy slime, that coochie doing it for me slime. They thought they could stop a demon, I'm back. The Zaza got me speaking Esperanto. This shit ain't nothing to me, man. We out here cloud seeding, the scope gleaming. You can't trust me, I don't even trust myself. I don't know who I am anymore, I'm getting too much money. Ass so fat, I'm peeking off this Danny Phantom slime. Can you remind me who I am? Get the president on the phone now. I fronted him a brick. I need my money. Hello, Black China?